Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hello, Spaced Out Radio family. Not happy having to wear the Vegas Golden Knights hat tonight as they make their way to the Stanley Cup. Stinking no good, ought to be tossed out of the NHL, Vegas Golden Knights. But here we are, and we're going to do a show. Lon Strickler is here, and I'm going to tell you, his beard is looking fantastic tonight. It really is. Dirty Filth is here as well as we get ready to talk monsters, cryptids, the Chicago Mothman. Lon's planning an expedition coming up very, very soon. He's got a bunch of cool stories to tell us as well. And hello to all of you. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, thumbs down. Race fan in the gold medal position to Mothman with the silver. Michael Morris, our resident attorney, taking home the bronze medal tonight. Hi, Robert Lamoth, Roy Boy, and Chris. How you doing? Kurt M., Brown Dwarf, Hadley. Vash the Impaler is here. Vash will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Daryl Zerline, Kevin Verpeen, it's been a while. Where you been hiding? Good to see you. North Alabama Cryptids, how you doing? Good to see you. Monica and Simon the Dogface, nice to have you here. Hi, Paramarv, nice to see you. As we scroll on down, there's Lee the Bee and Dirty Filth. Les Paul Holland is back. And number 14 in your program, starting at center ice from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Skip to Malou, nice to see you tonight. My man Millennium and Jen A, good to have you both here. As we continue on with roll call, there's Luscious Jules, nice to see you, hun. And I hope you're feeling better. And Kathleen Hughes, nice to have you back. And who else? There's Pixie Lara. How are you, my dear? Good to see you. And, of course, we have Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Crystal J. Justin Hemmingson is here. Justin will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Be careful. Be gentle. It's his first time signing autographs with us. Okay, moving on here. We have Jessica Nancy Thame, Sagittarius Dad. Good to see you all. Sugar Britches, Esmeralda. Thank you for coming on in. High Flying Monkeys. And who else do we have here? We have Laura Lobbs, Digger Dog. Good to see you both. Deb from SAC, W. David Page. Thank you for joining us. Hello, my man, River Dogma. How you doing, buddy? And Welsh Hammer. Good to see you. TMI. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Christine Lynn, Allison Singh, Welsh Hammer, Anthony, the Tattoo Man. How you doing? Good to see you all. Hey, Guy Calgary. Good to have you here. Vegas, man. Vegas. Roger Murray, how you doing? Good to see you. And Escape from Blue Jersey, good to have you back. Rose Brooks, nice to see you. Hi, 405er. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Always likes her name said 3 times. Jerry O'Brien, good to see you here, man. Evan Walters, you're already pissing me off. Matthew Gootka and Mike Bothwell, good to see you both, guys. Thank you for joining us. Penman, that's all you need to say. Penman. And moving on down here, Derek Galloway. Sorry, man. I made a promise. Lex Diaz, thank you for joining us. And let's see. We are caught up there. Let's get the radio side going, shall we? Because we got to make sure that Bill WD-40 gets into the chat room so he can lube us up for tonight's show. You always want to go into a show nice and smooth. So yeah, Emmy Tong and little Timmy Senor. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you, man. And where are we caught up? Yeah, we're caught up. We got 30 seconds to go here before we launch. And if you're new here, don't do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. We are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. And of course, our store is open at spacedoutradio.com. So make sure you check that on out. We got great swag there for you. And yeah, my cousin's even bugging me that I'm wearing my Vegas hat. Izzy Stradlin Beth, nice to see you. Mac Geek, thanks for coming on in. And do me a favor, everybody. Let's throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old baby the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. It is a power show of monsters tonight. Strange Days, and Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com is here with us as well. Then in hour number 3, we are going to head to Among the Missing with Steve Stockton. Then right after that, we are going to be going to Tim Senor, who will have the UFO report. Yes, it is that time of the month once again where we are joined by the Fortean researcher himself, Lon Strickler, who's an author. He's published several books on the topics of monsters, and he has the phantomsandmonsters.com website and blog as well. Monthly, he gets thousands upon thousands of hits of people reading their stories and submitting their own stories where they have come across creatures that should not exist, but for some reason have invaded these people's lives. His research and reports have been featured on hundreds of online media sources. He's been a regular on many television shows, from history's Ancient Aliens to Syfy's Paranormal Witness, Fact or Fake, Paranormal Files, Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America. Yeah, 9 books out. You can find them all on Amazon or his website, phantomsandmonsters.com. It is always a pleasure to have Lon Strickler back with us tonight. And Lon, you know, I'll tell you, we were just talking right before the break how during our Vegas party, we took a trip out to Area 51, and you've never been there, but man, when you go, you got to promise me you're going to call me up so I could go with you.
That sounds like a plan. I'd like to go out there at some point.
Absolutely. My friend, you know, I want to ask you, you know, because we have you on each and every month, but, you know, each and every month we have new listeners, different listeners tuning us in, whether on terrestrial radio or our YouTube channel or Twitch or the podcast, downloading it. You have one of the greatest jobs ever. You're a monster hunter. That's what you are. You're a monster hunter, and you've been doing this a long time. I see you smirking there, okay? But did you ever think growing up that you would grow up to be a monster hunter? What did little Lonnie Strickler want to be as a kid?
Well, not that. I mean, I don't know what I really wanted to be. I worked for a living for a long time, but, when I couldn't do that anymore, it became almost 100% of what I do. So But I've been doing it, I've been doing it off and on since the late '70s, actually. So yeah, I've been doing it for a while.
Well, before we continue on to the show, I made a promise to one of our listeners, Mama Catherine down in Atlanta, who traveled with her son Charlie all the way to our Spaced Out Radio fan party. So I promised her that every show I was going to throw her a kiss, Lon. So, mwah, Mama Catherine, there you go, my dear. This one is for you. But okay, getting back to you, Lon, for a few more minutes because we got you for the next couple of hours. I mean, the idea that you have wrapped yourself and inundated yourself to become one of the biggest voices towards cryptids, paranormal, supernatural events. You have been intuitive your entire life. You've had your own experiences. Why did you feel at that point, or at what point in life did you feel that you needed to build this database, this library of sightings, in order for people to research and to use for their own knowledge?
Well, I've been collecting this stuff ever since the beginning. I mean, and of course, when the internet became, a thing back in the mid '90s, I started posting on other websites and such, and but I really didn't. I really didn't post much of anything. I didn't do a lot of research. It was just mostly stuff that was coming to me, word of mouth, and cases people would talk to me about. But in 2005, I eventually went ahead and started the blog, famsofmonsters.com, and I started, looking into what people were experiencing. And, as the word got out, people started contacting me more and more. So, so that's where it's accumulated to. And I actually went back the other day and looked at how many posts. Now they're not all there anymore, but I went back and looked at how many posts I've actually made, and it's been over 18,000.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Does anything really surprise you anymore when it comes to the cryptids? Is there a story from the last 15, 20 years you've been doing this that has outside of the Mothman that has really
Yeah.
stuck out to you?
Not really. I mean, it's just a cumulative thing. It's just so many strange things that occur. I mean, especially in the area where I live at, the Mid Atlantic area. There's just a lot of stories. I mean, when people decide that they're going to brave it and come forward and talk about it, then it's something else. And of course, then we're able to look into it because we're so close. But it's just a lot of different things. When I started out, I wasn't doing any cryptid stuff. I knew a Bigfoot, I knew a Mothman, but I wasn't looking into any of that. I was just doing cases at locations for hauntings. Every once in a while, I'd get a case where somebody would think that they'd have an attachment or something like that, but it was always something to do with spirits, ghost energies. And when I've eventually had my 2 encounters, after that I started getting more and more into it. And of course, when the internet started back in the mid '90s, when it started becoming more popular, then I was able to easily get a hold of people and look into what people had been posting, and it became much easier. I mean, back before that, it was really tough to get people to come forward and talk.
What do you think has been the easement of people starting to open up about their own experiences? Is it age? Is it the media about UFOs over the last few years? Is it the fact that they don't want to maybe die not knowing what it is they saw or encountered? Is it a trifecta? Is it much more than that?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. Of course, the internet has a big thing to do with it because people, they're behind the screen and they're kind of anonymous until unless they let somebody know who they are. And if they've had an encounter and they want to talk about it or find out more about it, through other people's experiences, they'll put it out there. Of course, the advent of paranormal TV and of course, more and more cryptid shows and a lot of other stuff. But, all that started back, oh my God, early 80s with In Search Of. And then, of course, there was a lot of documentaries really just starting to come out about UFO encounters and UFO abductions, alien abductions, and of course, Bigfoot. Then it became more mainstream. And of course, now, for the past 20 years at least, it's been just more and more mainstream, and people have kind of less inhibition about coming forward with these cases. It's still not easy to get people to kind of give you the real skinny on things, because it's like I said before, it's almost like pulling teeth with some people, because they'll call you up, and this happens to me a lot, where somebody will get a hold of me and call me. And the first thing they say is, are you the guy that takes reports? And that's what they say, it takes reports. And I ask them, well, what kind of reports you talking about? And then they'll say, well, like UFOs and strange things or Bigfoot. And I say, yeah, I'm the guy. And, that's where it goes. But you got to talk to them to get them to open up. A lot of times people either feel embarrassed or just aren't sure how you're going to take what they're saying seriously. And that's always a bugaboo. But, when you alleviate their fears and make them believe that they won't be ridiculed, that what you do have from them will be confidential, whatever they decide to disclose. Yeah, it is much easier now. But, all in all, people are more receptive to it, and they're not afraid to actually put it out there, as opposed to what it was like years and years ago.
Do you think that the fact that people are more open to the idea of these monsters going around and coming to and from, that they are out searching for them, or still most of the reports, Lon, that people are just having chance encounters?
Yeah, it's chance encounters. Most people that haven't encountered have never really even fathomed believing in any of this phenomena. They'll always say, well, you're not going to believe I saw this. And I tell them, I say, I believe almost everything now. Nothing surprises me anymore. And that's one good thing about the paranormal. There's always going to be something else coming up, something much different. It's funny when you talk to people you investigate with, or people in the community who do investigations, and it's just really interesting how these weird things that many times just have not surfaced before. And then the phenomena becomes more and more part of the genre of it. And for instance, like the Glimmerman sightings, or the pale crawler humanoids. I mean, I'm not saying people haven't seen these things in the past, but since they're being reported and getting out there in the mainstream, then people aren't afraid to talk about it if they see that somebody else has had something very similar to what they have.
Do you find sorry, that the experiences people are having now are almost cultivated by themselves, almost like Tulpa like events? Or are these chance encounters happening more and more because people are putting themselves in that area?
I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, are more susceptible to having encounters. Now, the longer I have been receiving accounts from people, a lot of these people who have had encounters or have had sightings, this isn't their first time. They've had something happen to them before. And I think some people are just very predisposed to having these encounters. I always go back to what's going on in Chicago, or the area around Chicago. A lot of those sightings happen in areas where there are a lot of people, but only a few people are able to see it or comment about it because, they mention, and they do mention that to you. They'll say, I was in a crowd of people. I saw this thing, but nobody else saw it. Nobody seemed to even know it was there. So it does happen. I think most cryptids are like that. I think a lot of Bigfoot sightings, not necessarily because they want to be seen, but they are seen by people who may actually be more open-minded, have more sight into something like that. You talk about tulpas or thought forms. I think some people really do have an experience to where they may actually manifest it somehow. But then again, because they do have that ability, that it may show itself to them much easier or to them exclusively. But it does happen.
Lon, what are we missing when it comes to learning about these cryptid creatures? Are we missing the idea that look, we know they exist, but we're just not willing to put that effort into things? Are we missing the reality of how they live? Are we missing the reality of where they live, how they survive? What are we missing, in your opinion?
I don't know if we're really missing anything. I think that's a tough one. I believe that many times when people do see things, they don't realize what they're seeing until later on. They might get it might pop up in their head after something else is seen by somebody else, and they hear about it, they read about it, they see on TV. I get that a lot where people see stuff on television or at a movie, and it's almost exactly what they have encountered, but in their mind they just had stored it back there, back of their brain, and it just didn't come forward until there's some type of reference to it, and then it pops up there. You've heard about people who have had abduction scenarios or experiences scenarios where they really didn't think about it, or they just thought maybe what they had experienced was not real. And then when they do see a reference to something very similar, then it pops up, and then they come forward with it. That happens a lot. And it's just not with UFOs and so-called alien abductions. It's with all kinds of paranormal events. So, yeah, I think that's a big thing.
Can you put everything together under one hat? Whether it's alien abductions, whether it's Bigfoot sightings, your Mothman, near-death experiences. Are we at that point now where we can put it all under one hat?
Oh, I do. A lot of times when you do have a case, when you're working with somebody, as you work with them and talk to them, most times there's other factors that may have led up to it, or they've had other experiences that were entirely different than what they are talking to you about at the present time. I think cryptids and dimensions and other paranormal activity kind of go hand in hand. Even people talk about UFO activity and cryptids. I mean, there's a fine line. I think this is all connected to some degree, and that's what we need to find out. I mean, and that's kind of my goal, and has been in more recent years, to see really if one incident or one particular phenomena is connected to others. And, if you keep looking into it further and further, you do come up with some variables.
Why do you think the phenomena is all put together as one? What does the public not see in that?
I just think we're at the point now where many people, as opposed to before, do to associate different aspects of the paranormal to being connected. And I think that it's more receptive now because of that. Like I said before, because people have had multiple experiences. And, when they come forward and say, well, I saw a UFO at one time, but then I saw lights in the woods. And then I had a Bigfoot encounter, or I saw what I thought was a Bigfoot, or I saw something that I didn't recognize. Many people have lots of different experiences. So of course, you almost have to put it in, and that's one thing a lot of people just don't understand, how the paranormal is really just an avenue to another type of phenomena. And it happens more and more. But I think people are more, like I said, more open. I think they recognize that it's just not one thing. It's there's a lot involved there. Me being an intuitive and working with people personally, with most of the time with either an attachment, or say they've had an abduction, or they've had a sighting that they just did not understand many times at home. More and more comes out. And people that have been doing these investigations particularly for a longer time, they recognize that. And when you talk to the old timers, people who've been doing this as long as I have, they start to understand and start to say, yeah, it's just not one thing. There's other things involved here. And that's what we're looking into. That's what we're trying. I think that's the way we're going to get answers, is if you just don't particularly focus on one phenomena and you take other sightings as well into consideration.
The idea that there's so many people out there who have troubles connecting the paranormal to, say, UFOs or cryptids,
Mm-hmm.
Is it because they are so focused on their own research that they just haven't put two and two together then?
That might be. And there are a lot of people that just focus on one thing. I mean, and I don't know if it's just a reluctance to get into something else, to be eclectic about it. And you do meet a lot of people like that, But I think more and more people are starting to realize that, they need to look into everything, especially the younger folks that are coming up now. They read all this stuff. They see it on the internet. They see it on TV shows. And of course, it's always good when, these TV shows also mention other phenomena that has happened, or anomalies that have happened in connection with what they're investigating. So, I think the younger people are more open-minded about it, less inhibited. And that's what we really need. If we're going to get answers, that's the kind of people we need investigating these things.
There are questions we're missing, though, as journalists, as podcasters, as researchers. 30 seconds to go. Give me something that we're missing.
I don't know. I don't know. It's missing. I don't know if we're really missing anything. I do get upset with myself if I'm looking into a case and there's another aspect of it that I just didn't look into more thoroughly, and then it eventually pops up and becomes part of the case. But it does happen.
Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com. He is here for Strange Days, which we do near the end of each month, talking about the monsters among us. You can check out his books on his website as well. We return with Monster Stories with Lon right after this. Good start to the show, man. How you doing there, Dirty Filth? What are we working on today?
Oh, doing good. No more. Not very smoky here anymore, so I can see the sky again.
That's nice. Do you miss us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Except
You
for
were
that
hit.
hat, Dave. Oh.
Hey,
But you
Boy,
know what?
something about ice hockey in the desert just irks me the wrong way.
does
I'd
for me
have
in
to-
Phoenix.
I'd have to pull for Vegas because nobody likes Turtle Boy. That's all I really have to say about that.
Turtle Boy. Goddamn Kachuk. We're gonna run him over. I don't think Florida could compete with Vegas's defense. I really don't.
I'm grumpy pants, Dave. I don't want to talk about it.
Dude, you're not even having to wear the bloody hat. I have to.
You know, it's funny.
I'm
This
secretly
Vegas
wearing
team, they came out of the gate the first year because the first year of the expansion. Because, of course, I remember when the Caps had to play them, and I don't think has any other team done that where the first year they were expansion franchise that it got into the finals.
I think Florida did it in year 2 or 3.
It was like 2 or 3 for them. Yeah.
I'm trying to think here. I don't think LA ever did it when they expanded. Lord knows my Canucks have never done it.
Did the Avalanche do that?
Yeah.
Colorado.
The only team I would think of would be Colorado, probably.
And they won the cup in their expansion year. Well, not their expansion year, in their moving year.
Yeah, the Northeast, right.
Yeah.
And the Hurricanes, too. I mean, when they went down to Carolina, they had a pretty decent team early on, but they weren't expansion.
Hartford Whalers still had one of the best jerseys ever.
The whale tail.
I love those jerseys.
Yeah, I did too. I actually got to see them at Hartford one time, and that logo was just all over the place. But I like that logo too.
Yeah, they were the first expansion team to make the finals in year 1.
Were they?
Yeah.
I thought so.
My goodness.
They're talking about bringing another team up to Quebec again.
I hope so. Arizona. I think Arizona, Gary Bettman will never allow another team in Canada.
You don't think so?
No, he's an asshole. But hey, Greg 777. But he, I think he's going to keep it in the desert. I think the team, Arizona, after their 1 year, when they don't get another arena deal, that they will end up either in Houston or Kansas City. And I mean, Patrick Mahomes is already pushing for, an NHL team to come to Kansas City. I mean, the kid's 26 years old and he's worth $500 million, and he's the face of the biggest league in the world. I mean, that's going to have some pull. Quebec City has had an 18,000 seat arena waiting for 10 years.
I know.
And little Gary there, the troll, he's been there. They have the potential ownership to go there, but he just plays games with billionaires. That's all he does is play games. He's just a snot-nosed puke that I wish would go away. Hi, Science Melinda. How you doing? And Edmund 184. How you doing? All right, we got 30 seconds. Thank you to Typical, Derek, Louie, and Deb for the super chats tonight. The super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much. Hi, sweet Donna Spencer. How are you? And yeah, if you want to do some shopping, head to our store, spacedoutradio.com. And in a couple weeks' time, we are going to be announcing the new location for the third annual fan party. And it's not in Vegas. We're going to Reno. Here we go.
It's at Dave's house.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott, your host du jour, hanging on out, talking the monsters with you. Reminder to all of you that if you have missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We're talking with Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com for his monthly adventure here on the show called Strange Days. We do it near the end of each month. And Lon, you have a number of new stories and cases that you've been following. What are you hiding from us here, buddy?
Well, I'm not really hiding it. I've been posting a lot of stuff. You know, when something does come in and I've got enough to put out there to the public, I will put it out there. But many times we work on these things for weeks and months before we're able to even get it out. But this one case in particular, now it's a case that's been investigated or being investigated, or an area is being investigated by some of our affiliates. And it's down in Alabama. Now, I tell you, Alabama is an interesting state for cryptids. And in particular, in the north central part of the state, around Birmingham, and then up northeast into up into Tennessee and into Georgia. But south of the city, we have been getting a lot of cryptid canine sightings over the years. And this particular case that we got, now, I don't know if you have the photos from there, from the case I sent you the link to. But anyway, this gentleman who's been in the area, well, there's two of them. It's Brennan and Charles, who are part of our team. They came across something that was just pretty interesting, and the prints were kind of strange too, because I have never seen Bigfoot, and I think it is Bigfoot, though it could be a cryptid canine, but it's a long footprint, very narrow heel and mid foot, but it's got toes on it, 3 or 4 toes, but it's very long and narrow. But anyway, it was in the area around, it was in Coosa County, Alabama. And it was along what the area called Hatchet Creek, right off County Road 29. But anyway, this Brennan and his girlfriend were there at Hatchet Creek actually fishing. They weren't there really looking for much of anything, though he has provided a lot of sightings in the past. And she had to go relieve herself, basically. And she had to go into the woods to do that. And it was her time of the month as well. So, she went back 25 yards into the woods. And of course, when people talk about pheromones and what do you want to call them, pheromones, and being attracted to cryptids, a lot of researchers have said in the past, even now, that it may actually draw something in. And she was in there for like a couple minutes, and as she was there, this big tree branch actually snapped, and it was like 20 foot away from her. And he heard it as well. I mean, he wasn't that far from her because it was right off the creek. and there were no wind, nothing moving about. And then when she walked out of the woods, about 30 some yards away from where she was, a huge tree was pushed over. Now, that's just unusual. I mean, and it was, of course, when that happened, they had to make light of it. So what he did, of course, keeping an eye in the woods and nothing come running out there, they actually were looking about and they found this huge print, which I think was a Bigfoot print, and they took photos of it. And then they later had to go out and cast it as well. But they also found a handprint, and I'm waiting to get the cast of the handprint to look at it. That just has not been available yet. But anyway, that area is south of Birmingham. We've had a lot of cryptid canine sightings. I mean, huge upright canines, very similar in size to what we've been getting here in Pennsylvania. But he actually had started going back to this area. He was actually been there 3 times since then. And when they went there the one time, there were a bunch of kids in there camping. And that night, because he had made contact with them and gave him contact information, that night, something happened and scared the hell out of these kids, to the point where one of the kids' fathers went running in there later on with a shotgun because this thing scared them so bad. So what they saw, I don't know. Brendan also got some pictures of thermal. Now, I haven't seen them or cleaned them up yet, but there was something big moving around. So this whole general area of south of Birmingham, Alabama, down into Coosa County, and it's a pretty wide area, but there have been a number of cryptid sightings in there. When you talk about Alabama, you just don't really think a whole lot about cryptids, but there have been more and more sightings coming forward. I mean, people coming, and we've got sightings in Mississippi as well. So those Gulf Coast states, in particular, Mississippi and Alabama, and in the Panhandle of Florida, we've been getting more and more sightings as time is going on.
So looking at these prints here, I mean, to me, and I don't mean to make fun of them, but it almost looks like somebody laid a dog bone down. Like you go to the pet store to buy one of those cow bones for dogs to chew on. I mean, that's what it almost looks like. But I mean, that is one either real fractured foot, or because I see where you say the toes are there. You definitely see a heel there. But I mean, like, we're not talking about a big creature here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could have been a smaller one, but that's what they found. Now, was this a smaller example, something big that was large enough to pull a tree down? Possibly. But I just thought it was a very unusual print, and I'm waiting. Like I was saying, I'm waiting for the handprint to be cast. It was cast, but to get a picture of it. They are going back down there, and they're going to keep an eye on it. But it seems to be a very, very promising area for sightings. So, yeah, like I said, like I've been writing about the Alabama sightings the past couple of years, but of course we're lucky enough to have some people that are going in there. But yeah, hopefully this will turn out to be. We'll have other sightings show up as well.
I got a question for you regarding states, those southern states like Alabama and Georgia and all around that area. Why does these creatures seem to be a little bit more menacing? They seem to be a lot more vicious than what we hear, say, in northern the Pacific Northwest up into British Columbia, Alaska. You hear them be a little bit more aggressive again, but that's probably because terrain and everything is much bigger up the higher up you go towards the North Pole. But for you, why do you think these creatures seem to be a lot more aggressive in these areas?
They do seem to be more aggressive. I think they're more territorial. I think when they stake out the areas where they consider their territory, they don't have a whole lot of pressure from people being in there because it's more grown up areas. It's harder to get to for humans. And I think they react to it when people show up, as opposed to other parts of the country, especially, in this part of the country I'm at here in mid-Atlantic or in Pennsylvania. But I think that's a reason why they are more aggressive down there, and they just seem to be bigger. I think there may be different varieties of these things. Do Bigfoot or cryptid canines have races that are different in size, different in nature, different characteristics? It's very possible, but I think a lot of it has to do with habitation and what's around there or what people are around there.
Do you think that these creatures are more susceptible to attacking people?
I think if they're threatened or they feel threatened, I think they would. Or bluff charge. We get a lot of bluff charges from reports from folks, and a lot of those come from the southern states. And I think overall they're probably more aggressive. Now, is a territorial thing, or is a family group, or maybe they have another member of their group with them that they're trying to protect, or is it something to do with food resources and they just don't want to share anything? I don't know, but yeah, they do seem more aggressive.
They attack people?
There have been instances where people would believe that they're going to try to attack them, or they would bluff charge them. Yeah. I had to dig up the audio that these guys sent to me about a year ago of something. Now they said they thought it was a Bigfoot, and they were being chased, and they literally had a recorder out, and it had a telephonic speaker. Amplified microphone there. And you could literally hear this thing screaming at them and coming toward them. So I think some people do believe that they are more aggressive, and they may try to scare them to get them out of the area. Yeah, it does happen more and more in these southern areas.
Yeah, and the idea behind it, I guess you have to look at their territory as well. If you're in the swamps of Louisiana or the swamps of Alabama or Georgia, you're dealing with all sorts of predators, snakes, scorpions, alligators, alligator garfish, which are highly predatorial. You're dealing with a lot of things that want to kill you back. Let alone the feral hogs and the wild cats and everything else in between.
Yeah, there's a lot out there for them. There's a lot of food out there, but then again, when somebody's going out there to do investigations, they got to be aware of it as well. Do some people misidentify hearing a large feral hog going through a woods or going through a brushy area or something like that as maybe a possible big? Yeah, absolutely. And that does happen down in those Gulf states. We hear a lot about that. But I think all in all, I think these cryptids, when they are detected, they do some things to try to get people to move off.
Right. Have you ever seen any physical evidence outside of footprints of the difference in size between these creatures down south and what we're used to in the northern reaches of the continent?
Other than anecdotal evidence of sightings, that's about it. And of course, every once in a while, we'll get a photograph of something that's pretty big. But No, it's mostly just anecdotal evidence.
Mm. Mm. For you, I mean, looking into Sasquatch, knowing that, this is a creature that has been seen in almost every state and province in North America,
Mhm.
are the are are the reports, or how do the reports differentiate between this area, say, of Alabama compared to New York or Ohio or Washington State?
I think when you're talking about into the South and you're talking about Georgia, Arkansas, and in those areas in particular, even down in Florida, um, I think the lore and the fact that a lot of people do know they're there, makes it easier for them to come forward because they already have a belief that it's there, as opposed to other places in the country or other places in North America. They're less hesitant about coming forward. But when you talk to them, they're as believable as or most sightings because they give you more detail. Um, because a lot of times it's either something they experienced or before, somebody in their family has talked about it and has had encounters as well, so they know it's there.
Right. Okay. So with these creatures, are they more in, hovering around residential areas, or are they more into the jungles and swamps that North America has?
Yeah, they're going to try to stay hidden as much as possible. Um, a lot of these bayou areas where many of these sightings are, very rarely do they come into an area where there's people living. Not as much as in areas north of that, where more and more sightings of cryptids are occurring in areas where people live, in towns and not necessarily cities, but towns and smaller communities. But down there in the boondocks, it's not normal to have something come up to a house or into a property or yard.
Right. I mean, so do you look at that? They're not going into farmers' yards then and stealing food, or going into, um the, how can we put it, going into, a barnyard and ripping off cows or chickens, not like what we see up here.
No, I mean, if they got enough food in their habitat, they're gonna take advantage of it there as opposed to going someplace else and getting it.
Right. Right. Okay. So, my goodness. I mean, that opens up the idea to so many questions. I mean, to me, it almost like we're dealing with a secondary type of creature here that may not be related to what we're used to on the West Coast.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you look well. If you're talking Bigfoot, you look down, and you don't have to go any further down to Florida with what people call the skunk ape. It's a smaller version with a different, more reddish hair, shaggier hair type of creature. They're not as big. There seem to be more family groups or more groups that hang together. Uh, Very rarely do you get a singular individual unless it's a big alpha male that's out on their own. Um, but yeah, that state of Florida is, I mean, a lot of sightings there are what people call these skunk apes, and of course, I think it's a different type of, do these things have races? They're not necessarily different species; they're just races, and I think there's a big difference, as opposed to what you see further north. You just don't see those many of those types of shorter, less stocky type of creatures with the really long shaggy hair, as opposed to down south where you know they're out and about all the time, and they're in these areas where they can keep hidden. And yeah, I think there is a big difference.
Okay. Do you see them being maybe a different breed of creature? Could
Sure.
that be?
Yeah, I think it could be. Do they have breeds, races? Absolutely. I think it's very possible. I think there are, as opposed to where you guys live at or up in the Pacific Northwest, I think many times the descriptions of those are quite large animals with kind of a reddish hair, but you don't see a lot of that red hair here in this part of the country on the upper Midwest or in the East Coast or Mid Atlantic or in the Northwest. You see, you get reports of a more darker colored creature with hair that is less less thick as the others. There's more definition to the face, and many times they're not as stocky as what you may get up in your area, Pacific Northwest. It's just different. And up in the Pacific Northwest, you see a lot of family groups up there as well.
Are they stinkier? I know that sounds like a funny question.
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, I think because of the environment itself being, so hot and sticky and, so muddy, and they're in a lot of different stuff. And, yeah, I think they may very well have a far stronger odor as opposed to some of these others and, other Bigfoot or Sasquatch in other areas.
Hmm. Are they the main predator in that area, or are they just one of many predators?
I'd say they're one of a few. The cryptid canines, some people call them rougarous or some type of huge upright canine. I think as far as cryptids go, those may be the two in those areas, but a lot of these areas have big cats too. And of course, now with the many states, most states in the continental United States have coyotes, and I think a lot of the big cats are moving further east as well. So, we're living in a time now where these predators are heading east. Here in this area, we get coyotes, big cats, more bear coming out of the west. A lot of big bear sightings are occurring now as opposed to where they used to. A lot of big cats too. These state wildlife commissions don't want to talk about big cats, but people are seeing them, and they're here. They are definitely here. So yeah, and when I was living down around Baltimore, these sightings of big cats and coyote just have they have just expanded more and more, and we get a lot of reports. But no, the residential areas are more, have more populations, or these things are seen in areas where they're not necessarily supposed to be or usually are. But I think encroachment has a lot to do with that.
We got under a minute to go here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Lon Strickler in for Strange Days from phantomsandmonsters.com. Lon, do these creatures facially look similar in Alabama or that southern part comparatively to what we recognize elsewhere?
Overall, maybe. When you get a whole lot of reports and you start trying to figure out what type of facial features in particular come from certain areas, I think as opposed to, I think, I'm just talking about what I encountered back in '81 and other sightings in this part of the country. They have more of a human look to them, facial wise. They still have the thick brow ridges and the dark skin, but the hair is shorter. Many of them have a more conical head, and usually they're much larger.
Well, we're going to find out more as we continue on with Phantoms and Monsters. Lon Strickler on Strange Days. He's preparing for a movement to Chicago, looking for the Mothman in hour 2, Spaced Out Radio. All right, Dirty Filth. It's your game, my friend. Your game. Tell us what you got going on here, Dirty. Don't forget to turn your mic on.
I gotta make sure I don't use my potty mouth or anything like I was in previously. So Dave's gone for a smoke. Lon's still hanging out. Oh, there's the blob.
Oh, the cat's there.
Yeah. Can't explain the drawing so far, blob. So, anyways, I figured Mothman and his buddy, the Nightcrawler, would go to the UFO bar maybe one day after having some pizza in Chicago to go for a wee pint. Maybe, I'm not sure. They might even just drink like Sprite or something boring like that. Do you think Sprite guys and 7-Up guys are like as vicious as Coke and Pepsi guys are?
I don't know.
So I've never been anywhere where someone ordered a Sprite and they're like, "Just 7-Up, okay?" And then a fight broke out or something. I don't know. What if that's ever happened? I have
Maybe.
to search that up afterwards. I bet you Mothman would be pretty. He'd probably be pretty weird to hang out with if he actually hung out with him. He'd probably just terrified of loud, sudden noises like a moth.
Yeah, I don't know.
Actually, when I went to wrangle the cats, there was a moth floating around in my living room. So I brought that sucker outside. Figured if I'm nice to the Mothman won't, I don't know, slash the tires of my car or something. I don't know.
Or take up residence in your chimney or something.
Well, if he keeps the other cryptids away, I guess that'd be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have a inundation of cryptids, it might help.
I wonder if there's like a cryptid Ghostbusters group somewhere out there.
Oh, there are. There are.
Because I've heard stories of guys walking around the forest and some dude comes out with all this fancy equipment. And he's like, "Oh, I'm just bear hunting." Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay. Sorry about the horrible angle there, but went to Vegas. I didn't see a single UFO or cryptid or nothing, Lon. Sad about that.
Well, if you go out in the desert at night, you might see something. I think all the lights in Vegas itself make it hard to see stuff.
Well, the last time I was there, the year previous, there was a whole bunch of black helicopters flying around going towards the general location direction of Area 51. And I was kind of having a chuckle about that outside. Like, oh, aliens escaped.
I will say when I've been out to Vegas, I've never seen a UFO that I consider being a UFO. I mean, an actual big craft or something. See a lot of lights, but
everybody went out to the desert, and I was going to have none of that. Dave lives a little closer to the ocean, so he's a little more climatized to heat. Like Alberta guy going down there. Yikes.
Where are you at?
Sweaty.
You're down in Alberta?
Yeah.
What part?
I live in Edmonton.
Oh, you're in Edmonton? Okay.
Yeah, I got myself a nice cardboard box, just enough to film my show every time I come on here with Dave. No, it's not that bad. But no, there's actually been some pretty interesting
Edmonton.
Sasquatch sightings in Alberta. My friend and her sister witnessed an albino Sasquatch one time.
Really? I get a lot of reports out of Alberta. I really do. I got a lot of reports out of Alberta. And in fact, I believe it's probably on par with sightings I get to British Columbia as far as, cryptid sightings.
I'll see if
Yeah,
she
it's
can
crazy over
write up
there.
a thing for you.
Okay.
More northern you go in Alberta, the crazier it is. I mean, you hear in the oil patches where a lot of them construction workers, their areas that they've just dug up are like all of a sudden, you got Sasquatch walking through there.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
We get a lot of my sightings in that part of Canada come from ice loggers. People that are, doing in logger camps and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Out in the middle of nowhere. And,
Yeah. All right. I want to say a big thank you to Deb, Louie, Derek, Typical, and Catherine for the lovely super chats. Thank you so much for the support. And Jose, how you doing? Good to see you. Mr. Cowley, welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley loves his spaced out radio. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Paboosh. Paboosh is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com. He joins us near the end of each month for a little ditty that we call Strange Days. Lon is a Fortean researcher who is about to pack his suitcase and make his way to Chicago to do some boots on the ground investigation of the Chicago Mothman. Lon, welcome back.
It's good to be here, Dave.
So, you ready for a little adventure?
Yeah, we're going to go out there and see what we can do. We got some projects out there we're going to take care of, so we'll see. I'll know more when we get out there.
When are you heading out?
Huh? About 2 weeks. About 2 weeks.
Wow. So, what do you do when you're about to go on an adventure like this? How do you prepare?
It just depends on what's going on. I mean, if I'm actually looking at a specific case where I'm working with somebody, we'll take what we need. I don't like, I'm somebody who just doesn't like dragging a whole lot of stuff with me. If I'm going out into a rural area where I'm going to be probably sleeping in the car or something, I'm not dragging a whole bunch of stuff with me. I'm going to kind of rough it out as best I can. Though, I'm as I've gotten older, I'm more inclined to be able to sleep in a hotel or something as opposed to being in a car or in a tent. Those days are most likely over with me. But if I'm working at a specific type of sighting or area, I will take what I need to take. But like I said, I don't like dragging a lot of stuff.
No, I mean, for you, though, as you head out looking for this creature and whatever investigation you're going to be doing, somehow, and I got a gut feeling, and you could confirm with me if I'm wrong or not, but I have a gut feeling it has something to do with probably some television cameras or documentary cameras, because it just seems a little too logical.
Yeah, well, I'm not really at liberty to say a whole lot, but it will include something that will probably seen much later.
Yeah. Okay. So my gut feeling was right.
Yeah, you're right.
Do you like the attention when it comes to bringing out events like this? Is this good for the research?
You know what? When you got something as big as this thing out in Chicago, uh, there are a few bugaboos with it. I mean, you're always going to have naysayers and people that are trying to derail you. You know, I've talked about this before. There are always some people that I don't know if they're jealous or what it is. I don't even like to say that, but they seem to want to put a monkey wrench into a lot of the gears sometimes and make it tougher. And of course, with the advent with the internet and that, the internet kind of makes it tougher to do investigations because you've only got somebody, especially when I'm writing about it or and coming on shows and talking about it. You always got people that are going to want to put their own 2 cents into it. Not in a good way, in some way to kibosh what we're trying to do. So there's always a downside. Look, I do appreciate when people like what you're investigating and they're interested in it and they want to learn more about it. I'm open to that. I'm obliged to that. I mean, just like on my YouTube channel, I'm doing a series where I'm reading about certain cases of certain sightings and encounters that people have had with the Chicago Mothman or O'Hara Mothman thing. And I've actually done 6 so far. I'm going to do one this Friday. And then we're probably going to do another one. But it's always good to have people that are interested. I like to have people come on people in the chat after I'm done reading about the cases or the incidents and ask questions. I always like to answer questions. So it's good to have people that are interested.
Going to Chicago, do you have a target area of where you're going to be starting the search?
No, not really. There's a few places that are mapped out right now, but it'll probably, we're as far as what we're doing, it'll be cases that we know the witnesses and the areas, and we're going to be concentrating on those. And, and what invariably happens is when you're out there or when you're doing something, somebody else will come forward while you're out there and say they saw this, this, and that. And I'm going to be obliged to listen to them and take notes because I am definitely going to be taking notes while I'm out there.
Do you think you'll be able to collect any evidence, or are you mainly going to interview witnesses?
It's mostly interview.
Okay, what do
you
you
look at locations, interview, and such?
Okay, what are you hoping personally to get out of this?
I don't know. That's just it. Am I looking for something specific? No. The stories and the encounters that'll send me or take me in a direction I need to go. I never really go into much of any case or any type of case with some type of preconceived, target, because normally it'll tend to go in a direction that will open up other avenues to look into. And I expect that's what's going to happen out here.
How many people are going?
Well, it's just going to be the 3 of us who have been doing the investigation exclusively of this phenomena.
What do you like about this case? What fascinates you?
it's the cryptid that keeps on giving. You know, it's so unusual for a lot of reasons. But first of all, it's the Mothman. It's a winged humanoid. It's something that I've had an encounter with. It's something that I have always been interested in. We've had very good witnesses, people coming forward. We're at 161 credible sightings now. And it's, even though there are periods of time where it wanes, where we just don't get a whole lot, but there are areas that are hotspots. So like O'Hare, the suburbs around O'Hare, with Rosemont and Bentonville and other areas, and then other places up into Wisconsin and Indiana. There's certain hot areas. And of course, in the city, there's certain neighborhoods like Little Village where you've had 11 sightings. It's a hot area. So yeah, that's what I like about it. You know, you've got a variety of reporting areas, locations, a wide range of witnesses. So yeah, it's the cryptid that keeps on giving.
The idea that you've had 161 sightings over the last number of years really makes me
12 years now.
12 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So over the last dozen years, is there similarities you have been able to draw together from these 161 sightings?
Well, you know, you've got Tobias coming on a couple of nights, and I'm quite sure you're going to ask him about it as well. But yeah, there are a lot of similarities. You know, the one similarity that has kind of surprised me and others is that a majority of the witnesses are Hispanic, which I think is incredible. Now, why that is it a cultural thing? Is it a religious thing? Is it a folklore thing? I don't know. But many, if not most of these sightings have occurred with Hispanic or Latin witnesses. The overall descriptions are very similar. Now, we've had some wing differences. Some have been owl wings or feathered wings, a few of those, but most of them have been this bat wing, this membrane-like wing, like a gargoyle or large bat. And of course, many of them had the red eyes as well. And these just aren't, these are not eyes that are just reflecting light. These are large eyes that are actually projecting red light. That, you know, that's a big characteristic that you just don't see a lot of. You just don't hear a lot of that with other cryptids. But when it comes to the winged humanoids or Mothman, that's something that seems to be part of the whole thing.
Time of day when these are happening? Is it nighttime, evening, daytime, early morning?
Mostly nights, but we have had sightings all hours of the day, all seasons. Doesn't really matter.
Are other cryptids seen with this creature?
Well, there have been other anomalies that we believe may be associated with it. We've had a couple sightings where there were possibly other beings with it, some type of humanoid being that didn't have wings. We've had that in a few of these. You know, the area of Chicago, the Chicagoland area, and people who are not familiar with it. And I know Tobias is going to bring this up when you talk to him. Of course, there's a lot of water, there are a lot of rivers. The Chicago River runs through the city. There are a lot of sightings that may be associated with it, let alone Lake Michigan. Chicago has a lot of preserves, a lot of forested area, which is kind of unique for an area as big as Chicago. So, are these associated with what's being seen? Could be. Yeah, it could be. But those preserve areas, we have had humanoid sightings of other type of humanoids in there, possibly alien beings in these areas as well as at the airport. We've also had some UFO activity. Two cases that stand out in particular happened at O'Hare with UFOs or some type of craft. So there is that involved with it.
Okay. I'm just trying to, like, this creature just, it baffles me. It really, really does baffle me. You know, because
Yeah, I mean, I wish we knew more about it. But I'm hopeful.
Lon, is there a particular month, day, year as to why you're going in 2 weeks? Does that have anything to do with it?
No, it's just the scheduling. It's just, it's just whatever's been scheduled for the project itself. And while we're out there, we may do some investigations. No, it's just the scheduling. That's not up to me. I mean,
Right. Okay. So just this creature, I don't know why I love talking to you about it. And I know a lot of my questions are very repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
But it baffles me because I don't know what this is. If I go back to the whole idea of West Virginia Mothman, the original encounters, I have an idea of what that may be.
Mm-hmm.
But this stuff that's happening in Chicago, we have no breaking bridges. We have, no real, animosity in the sightings outside of people getting freaked out. Like it just doesn't make sense to what it's doing there. I mean, in West Virginia, whether you believe it or not, you could call it maybe a harbinger of death or a
Mm-hmm.
harbinger of doom. Here, you can't. Yet, if it's the same creature, why is it moved? Did it get evicted? Was it not paying rent? Does it have bad credit? I don't know.
Well, I don't think it's the same creature. I think it's something entirely different, quite honest with you, because the body makeup from the sightings in Chicago as opposed to what happened in Point Pleasant or the areas around Point Pleasant is different. For the most part in Chicago, these are very thin, emaciated type beings, very dark in color. Most of the wings that have been described are of a membrane, gargoyle, bat-like wing. And the only real connection with the Mothman of Point Pleasant are the red eyes. Now, we talked about breeds and with Bigfoot or, races with Bigfoot. Maybe this is another breeder race as well, winged humanoids.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to put your finger on and to say it's this, and that, and that's what drives us to continue looking into this. When we first started getting all these sightings, the large number of sightings in 2017, and as I told you before, when we started getting the sightings, I started reporting the sightings on the blog. I started talking about it on the radio and such. And I was having people who lived in Chicago literally calling me 24/7. People who didn't have sightings, who just called me to get my assessment of what it was. And, most people are very familiar with the Mothman prophecies and the harbinger theory that it's a foretelling of something that's going to happen. Well, when this happens in a large city like Chicago, which is a very violent city and a lot going on, when something doesn't happen, people start wondering, well, when will it happen? What will happen? And, I don't have an answer to that. But to this point, I really can't pinpoint anything that has happened as a result of these sightings.
So we just wait and see.
Well, we got to wait and see, or hopefully if the evidence comes up that gives us a better idea of what we're dealing with, my readers and people who are following me are going to be the first ones to know, because I'll put it out there.
Do you expect to see anything? Are you going to try and summon this creature in?
I don't know. Maybe. It's interesting. I had somebody ask me that the other night. Well, since you're going to be out there, and since you've had an encounter with one of these things many, many years ago, and that you're getting these sighting reports as opposed to other groups or other people, are you going to try to summon it? I might. All I can do is say, I can, if something does pop up, we've had people who have had experiences that may be related to this that seem more paranormal, more, I don't know, more energy related as opposed to seeing a flesh and blood cryptid. Maybe I will get some type of communication, some kind of connection. Maybe I will get answers while I'm out there. That would be great. That would absolutely be great. And, when I do have some downtime, I am going to probably pursue a few things. I've been looking into doing a few things, so we'll wait and see.
Honestly, I would love it to see if you could try and summon this creature in, man. That would be absolutely wonderful.
Well, I'm not saying that I'm not discounting that. I may very well do something now. The other guys with me, I don't know if they will or not, but I know I am going to try a few things. I really am, because we're going to be out there for multiple days. So we'll see. Maybe as I'm traveling out to Chicago, because I'm not flying, maybe as I'm going there, maybe it'll sense me making my way to the Windy City and try to connect with me. I've heard stranger things have happened like that to other people in other instances with other anomalies or another cryptids. So who knows? Maybe it will.
Lon, we get that all the time going into our Sasquatch.
Oh, I know. I know you do. I get it too.
I strongly believe that these creatures know well in advance when you're coming for them. And they make the decision as to whether or not they're going to appear for you or leave you any clues or sounds or anything.
Well, you'll find out when I get back.
Well, I guess that's all we can hope for right now.
Yeah.
What does Lon do in Chicago besides eat their pizza, deep dish pizza? What
yeah,
else?
I'm on a diet and I can't do that anymore. But no, I have been formulating a few things I may very well do. Being an intuitive, being a remote viewer, I may try a few things. I don't know yet. I will try some things though.
We look forward to it, my friend. We got you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com comes in once a month for a little feature we call Strange Days. When we return, we're going to hit up Lon with some audience questions. We got some good ones coming up, so stay tuned because we got a jam-packed second half of the show coming up right after this. All right, we are clear.
Yeah, I can't really talk about it because I'm under contract not to say a whole lot.
Oh, I know. I
Yeah,
know.
so
I just needed to bug you about it.
oh, I know. I get it. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I will be doing some things. I mean, I'm already planning on doing a few things.
Oh, very good. Very good.
And I'll have if something does turn up, I'll have something there to try to capture the experience. So we'll see.
Oh, I hear you. I hope you do see something, man. I really.
Well, I tell you, some of the accounts that people have talked to me about with incidental connections or contact with these things are interesting. And it's just not people who I've worked with. It's just regular people who have no rhyme or reason to being contacted by these things, but it does show up. And many times people are in like their hotel rooms or in an office building or something, and something will just out of the blue happen that they just can't explain.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think this creatures, because I know there are a lot of them, may very well do that with me or somebody else.
Oh, very true. Very, very true, my man. All right. Well, like I said, we'll get to audience questions next.
Okay.
And that'll take.
I like taking questions because that's a big part of what I do on my channel, and the fact that I do write about a lot of different things, and people are curious and want answers, and I have no issue with that. All I can do is give my opinion.
All right. What else do we got here? Audience, don't forget to put your questions in capital letters. What did Filth draw for us tonight?
Oh, I like that.
A wee pint. Well, that's nice.
He got a Mothman, and he's got a looks like a Fresno Nightwalker, doesn't it?
Yep.
Or Nightcrawler.
They're good buddies.
That whole Fresno Nightcrawler, Nightwalker thing just freaks me out. I mean,
it's a pair of trousers.
Huh?
It's just an animated pair of trousers walking around.
Oh, well, that's what it looks like. But there have been a couple of sightings in different areas. People, I don't know. I wrote about it in my book. Just something else that's unexplained. Is it alien or is it some type of other humanoid or whatever? But they're so odd.
I don't get those ones.
One of those night crawlers could easily hide in plain sight by just clipping his toes to a clothesline. Nobody would even notice. Could be watching you all day. Leprechaun, he's got a little bit of chest hair.
Well, then he's your son. Where the hell's the leprechaun in here?
Maybe he snuck out already.
Is he in the bar hiding?
Oh no, he was questioning in the chat room, Dave.
Oh.
They have free pinball there as well.
Do they have a jukebox that actually plays records?
I'm fairly certain it's at the back. It's a little dusty.
And which live band? It wouldn't be Great White, would you? Would it? Because they tend to burn down bars.
Wow. Some people might not get that reference, Dave. That's a good one.
Yeah. Thank you, Izzy Stradlin, Louis times 2, Catherine, typical Derek, and Deb for the amazing super chats tonight. Very, very impressed with your support. Here we go with the next half hour. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go with Lon Strickler and Strange Days. We do this show near the end of each month where Lon comes in and talks about the monsters that walk among us. If you want to check out the reports he has, thousands of them, just go to phantomsandmonsters.com. His books are there as well. Lon, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, dude.
Let's get to some questions. Justin wants to know, what do you know about the Headless Valley in the Northwest Territories? You think it's Bigfoot that prefers to behead the victims?
You know, I've heard a lot of stories about that place. It would seem it would be something like a Bigfoot. But it's a creepy story. It really is. And I don't know, has it happened more than once? Is it something that continues or has continued to happen, or something that did happen many times? I don't know. But it's a creepy story.
You know, there's so many different stories around. I recall hearing a report from a few years ago where apparently when you go into that area, they only allow you an hour because they say that area is very pristine. They don't want a lot of people walking in that area, so on and so forth. And they brought the helicopter down. Helicopter drops off this crew. Helicopter comes up, goes above the trees, then all of a sudden turns around, comes back and lands, tells them to get back on the helicopter. And they're like, we have an hour. And the helicopter pilot said, no, I saw something coming towards you. And
wow.
Yeah,
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of, you don't know if it's mythical. You don't know if it's story time. You don't know if it's part of the legend. You know, you can only go with what you hear. But I mean, that area, do you think it was some sort of cryptid creature ripping the heads off of explorers back in the 1900s? Or do you think that it was more so maybe, you know, like every country, I shouldn't say every, almost every country still has their indigenous that have not been swept up with, you know, what's happening on daily humanity. You know, we see it in India, we see it in Brazil, we see it in Thailand and Vietnam, and a lot of the areas that have jungle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you think it is?
That's a tough question. That's a hard question to answer because, you know, some of these stories seem to be contrived sometimes, and it's something that kind of things get added on to it as time goes on. Unfortunately, when this and what we do, and if we go back and find an old account, say like in the 1800s, you know, as you look into it and start digging into other especially newspaper accounts, They seem to always have something added onto it, embellished as time goes on with it. So is it something innocuous that just turned into something much bigger? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. I don't know either, and it's tough to see, what actually happens up there. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of information.
No,
You
it
know,
isn't.
That's the issue we have here in Canada. We don't seem to provide a lot of information on things like that.
Well, that's true because it being very, very much wilderness, rural area that, if something does happen, a lot of times either the people don't live to tell it, or it's something that's embellished as time goes on. It does seem to happen with a lot of the cryptid stories that come out of Canada. In the areas where there's not many people.
Let's go back to Justin here. Is there much action of cryptids near Indiana?
Indiana is one of the most active states in the country for everything, for even paranormal. We've had the winged humanoid sightings in Indiana. We've had about 10 to dozen cases or sightings there. Southern Indiana is very well known for Bigfoot activity. A lot of UFO activity in Indiana. A lot of hauntings. A lot of really strange stories have come out of Indiana over the years. If you go to my blog and if you use the search tool and put Indiana in there, you'll get 50 or so incidents come up easy.
What makes it such a hotbed?
I don't know. I don't know if it has to do with the indigenous that lived there at one point. I think a lot of it has. I think the land, a lot of these tribes who inhabited Indiana or that India territory for what Indiana's named for, they got moved out of there very quickly, and a lot of the incidents weren't good. I mean, a lot of Indians died. A lot of these native people died there. And is it something that's marked on the land? Is it something that has caused this cryptid activity to become more intense, or spirit activity to become more intense? I really don't know. But I will say that Indiana is a very hot state. I'd say it's in the top. I'd say it's in the top 5 in the United States for states activity. And that's saying a lot.
What kind of creatures are being seen there?
Well, cryptid canines, Bigfoot, winged humanoids, UFOs, all of them. There's like the beast of Busco is well known, that huge turtle. There's a lot of crawler stories that come out of the Hoosier National Forest. A lot of Bigfoot sightings in there. Got a lot of hunters that have had encounters in southern Indiana. The state itself, even though the state isn't that big, there's just a lot going on there.
And here I thought it was just about football.
No.
Wow. Or basketball. One of the two. Let's go to Izzy. Other than Mothman, are there other winged cryptids we should know about?
Yeah, pterosaurs. People have seen these cryptids that look like pterosaurs or pterodactyls. A lot of thunderbird sightings. The upper Midwest is loaded with them. Where we had these these Mothman sightings, there's a lot of other winged cryptid sightings as well. The upper Midwest is very well known for winged or avian type cryptids. Again, we're talking about Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin. Those are the hot states for this type of activity.
Out of which, okay, the Thunderbird, like I said to you last show, it's still the one that drives me nuts. And I think people are looking into a previous time because, like I said, there's no painted cars, there's no painted buildings, there's no painted trees, and the size of that nest would have to be, I don't know how many trees would have to hold up that nest.
Well, you know my thoughts on interdimensionals or ultra-terrestrial beings. Who's to say that? I don't think they're indigenous. I think most cryptids are interdimensional or come from another dimension. I think that, I just think there's some areas where they're mostly indigenous, like in your area, Pacific Northwest, Florida, some parts around the Gulf. But I think other places they may very well be some type of interdimensional or ultra terrestrial.
I agree with you on that one. Let's go to Brand
Yeah.
War. Lon, have you noticed a connection between the Mothman, Latin community, and the flying witches of Mexico, Veracruz?
I don't know if there's a connection, but that whole flying witches thing down there in Mexico, you'd say Veracruz, there was also down in Monterey and a few other areas. That was one freaky set of sightings down there. I mean, if you go back and look at it, even a local police officer had an encounter with one of these so-called flying witches. I don't know if there's really a connection. I think, but as far as what, it's happening or being seen by people of Latin descent or Hispanic, I think there's something there that may tie into it. But as of now, I don't know exactly what it is. I mean, there's a lot of folklore, a lot of religious connotation with these sightings by Latin Americans. Of course, you also have the Lechuza, which is the huge owl-like cryptid down in the Rio Grande area of Texas and in Mexico. So, the winged humanoids are kind of hand in hand with the Hispanic culture. So, as far as connection there, yeah, there may very well be one.
Is there a spiritual aspect to a lot of that too?
Possibly. Somebody mentioned the bruja and witches and such, and occult. I think there may be an occult connection in some instances. I have looked into a lot of the Creole religions over the years. Been involved with some cases down the Caribbean and down in New Orleans and Louisiana into Florida, where a lot of religious or beliefs are connected with the occult, and a lot of it has to kind of ties into the paranormal. Yeah, I mean, I think there is a connection there.
Interesting. All right, let's move on here to another question for you. Let's go to Mike up here in Canada. Bigfoot, dogman with red eyes. Some consider those encounters are shapeshifters. What's your thoughts, Lon?
They may be, but I don't think they are. Can they change form? There is some evidence, anecdotal, that may very well tend to lean that way. But talking about red eyes, it's not projected light. It's always reflective light. So I can't really say that they are shapeshifters. I'm not doubting that there are some type of shape-shifting cryptids or creatures, but in instances of cryptids, it's not very prevalent. I don't know. You hear about these cases of the Glimmer Man, these, like the predator effect. Is that considered a shapeshifter? Who knows? It might be a cloaking aspect that these things can perform. Are I do believe cryptids for the most part are supernatural beings. So I think they may have some abilities that we just don't understand.
All right, let's go to Philip. Has anyone reported winged cryptids from the Yakima UFO microcosm here in Washington State and east of there?
A few, not many. There have been a few. And the ones that do come up are much different than what you would consider a Mothman or a winged humanoid. Many of them are larger natural creatures that just have different aspects to them, that they may be cryptid or maybe just a mutant of something. Very large malls that have different types of form to them. I hear that Yakima area. It's funny. We do occasionally get some fairy sightings in there. I don't know if it has to do with the indigenous people from the area. I don't know what their lore is as far as humanoids. I'm quite sure there is, because most tribes have had some type of humanoid lore associated with them.
Do you think that Washington State especially, I mean, it was such a UFO hotbed there for a while in the 40s and 50s. It seems to have toned down, especially for more Sasquatch and paranormal activity. Why do you think it's kind of shifted that way, considering the volcanoes, the military bases? I mean, it has everything that the UFOs and them aliens seem to like.
Yeah, I mean, we still get sightings out of, in particular in McCord and Fort Lewis in Washington. We get a lot of Bigfoot sightings around there. But Oregon, Washington, and BC, I mean, they do have their share of phenomena. And there's still a lot of UFO sightings and cryptid sightings that come out of there. It's probably less noticed as opposed to what it used to be, because there seem to be more sightings elsewhere as opposed to there. But they're still going on.
Okay, let's get to one more question here. And this is from the lovely Catherine. Mwah, we love you, Catherine. You get 2 kisses today. How about that, my dear? Besides Bigfoot, what other cryptids are seen in Georgia? And Jessica Jones doesn't count.
Cryptid canines. We occasionally get them up in North Georgia. Sightings up there. That northwest part of Georgia, in the mountains, in the Appalachians, southern Appalachians. Yeah, Bigfoot and cryptid canines. We have had a few Mothman sightings up there. We have a few. I had to dig them out at some point, but we have had a few.
Okay, Lon, with everything that's moving forward with the cryptids, is this a big year for a lot of cryptid sightings going on? It seems that every time I'm turning around, there's new reports, there's new activity everywhere. Is 2023 so far turning out to be a banner year for sightings?
I think some investigators will say that. I know in Pennsylvania, in particular, in Western Pennsylvania, it's been really active. Stan Gordon and I were talking about the other day. It's really been active. He's been busy. There have been a lot of UFO sightings nationwide this year for whatever reason. So, I mean, you do get that. I mean, and Butch would have told you before. I mean, a lot of times this it comes in spurts. Some years are dry. Some years we get a lot. It's just hard to keep up with it. But I think in certain areas it's heavier. But Western Pennsylvania, Ohio is very busy. Now as far as what we have gotten here in this part of the state, it's not been any larger than normal, but we're getting sightings.
Okay, so is it more a fact that people are reporting it more then?
That might be. Yeah, people are out more than what they used to be. I mean, the COVID years, the shutdown years, it was tough to get reports. But people are out and about doing things. And, as the weather gets warmer, we always do get more sightings. One thing I thought was interesting this year, as opposed to other years, is in this part of the country, is that when trout season opens up in northeastern part of the country, we used to get a lot of trout fishermen who had Bigfoot sightings and encounters. We just didn't get that this year. But some years were banner years, talking about early spring when in March when it would open up. Yeah. But this year it just didn't seem to pan out like that.
Why do you think that is? What
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I talked to Stan and a few other people about that. But for whatever reason, now is there less fishermen out there, less people observing? I don't know. But it did seem that there were less this year. I may be mistaken, but I just didn't get the reports like I have in the past.
Wow. We have about 2 minutes to go with you, Lon. Mm-hmm. And I want to say a big thank you for you coming on the show tonight once again. And I'm very excited because the next time you're back, you'll be able to discuss with us what happened.
I hope I have something for you.
Oh, dude, I'm pumped up about it too. And we're going to send you some serious, proper juju there to, sprinkle on over the Chicago, Illinois area, where you won't need a bulletproof vest. All you'll need is a camera and some other good gear to catch this. But I really do hope you get a sighting, my man. If anybody deserves a sighting of this creature, it's you.
Well, I appreciate that. I would love to have a sighting of one of these things. That would be like the cherry on top, the sundae. I mean, as hard as we've worked on this phenomenon now for all these years, it would be great to have a sighting.
That it would. Do me a favor, if you don't mind, as we got about a minute to go here. Tell all our listeners where they could find your books, where they could find your podcasts, and all of your information. Yeah,
the blog is phantomsandmonsters.com. Written out, phantomsandmonsters.com. Our YouTube channel is Phantoms and Monsters Radio. You just go to YouTube, put Phantoms and Monsters Radio in the search, it'll come up. And my books can be found on Amazon. And I'm kind of in between a couple books right now with all what's been going on with me and the surgeries and everything. I really just have not had an opportunity to do much writing. But I'm going to try to find sometime to get this done. But yeah, so, my email is Lon Strickler at phantomsandmonsters.com. And if you want to contact me about a sighting or encounter, feel free to do that.
Yeah, it's always a good time when we have you on here, Lon Strickler, and your beard looks magnificent. A good 10 out of 10 on it tonight. I will definitely give you those kudos that you well deserve.
Getting grayer though.
Oh, dude, I look like Santa Claus.
I know.
At least you got some color in there. I don't. So all right, Lon, thank you so much. We love you, man. And good luck in Chicago. Coming up next, we are going to have another great story from Steve Stockton and Among the Missing. Then, right after that, little Timmy Senor is dropping by with the UFO report. We got a jam-packed hour 3 coming at you right after this on Spaced Out Radio. All right, Lon, thank you so much, buddy. We
I
shall.
hope I have something for you next month, Dave.
Well, if not, we're going to have to send you right back there and find something.
Okay.
All right, buddy. You take care.
Okay,
Be
you
safe.
take care. Bye-bye.
Lon Strickler, everyone. And I'm going to just disappear a couple minutes, and I'll be right back. Timmy. Hey, Timmy. Timmy. Hey, we got a long one here of 14 minutes. It's real long. Yeah, I know. I'll try and cut it down a little bit, okay? All right. Okay, be right back. Hey, Timmy. You know how much it sucks, Tim, wearing this Vegas Golden Knights hat? It hurts, man. It hurts. Hurts real bad. All right. We got about 45 seconds. We got a rookie goalie, Derek Galloway. By the way, cousin Chad, if you're listening, I hate you right now for this hat. I don't follow wrestling too much. I'm still into the old school stuff. It was way better than what we see today. Not as scripted. All right, here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Paboosh. Paboosh is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time once again where we head to Steve Stockton's YouTube channel, Among the Missing, for another strange story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Hello, my wandering wanderers. Steve Stockton here with you, ATM on SOR. Tonight we bring you another true account from the pen of Barton Nunley. The Beast of LBL. Paranormal investigator, the late Jan Thompson, claimed to have had many brushes with unknown phenomena. One of her most frightening encounters concerns a dogman which attacked one of her cousins one day during summer vacation at their home near the land between the lakes in Livingston County, Kentucky. Here's what happened in her own words, quote, "It was one of those typical sultry July late afternoons back in 1978 in Grand Rivers, Kentucky, when this encounter with the inexplicable creature transpired. I'd come down to stay at my aunt's house for a few weeks of summer vacation and spend some time with my two cousins. Her home was surrounded by generously wooded and hilly acres and sat at the end of a dead-end road. There were several trails throughout the woods that led to more than a few places, a long out-of-service railroad track that went on for miles, an old abandoned sawmill, a large section of rough rock bluffs, and a lonely stretch of shoreline on Barkley Lake. Most of the trails were made by my cousin Joe's dirt bike and were well defined. As it was with almost every day that I was visiting, Joe, 13 at the time, was out riding his bike through those woods. His younger sister, Rhonda, she was around 10 at that time, and myself were sitting outside on the porch swing waiting for their mother to come home from grocery shopping. I was 17 years old. The stillness of the afternoon was interrupted by the distinct sound of his dirt bike in the distance, screaming through its gears, echoing inside the trees. I knew he must have been on his way home because his dad had forbidden him or anyone else in the family to be out in the woods after dark. I could hear the bike's motor as it approached us at full throttle. I was expecting him to slow down, but he didn't. Still at top speed, he reached the trail opening at the top of the driveway and burst towards us, actually going airborne for a few feet. The front tire crashed down on the pavement, and he continued his descent, struggling to keep the bike upright. He hit the brakes hard to avoid going past the driveway and down an embankment, slid the bike sideways, and jumped off in a daring maneuver. He had a look on his face, like something terrible had happened. His eyes were wide with fright, and his body shook from the adrenaline. Sweat was rolling down his face, and he drew deep, rapid breaths through his mouth, which was drawn taut in a strange grimace. Tears were coming down his cheeks, mixing with the dusty trail dirt, and they remained, unblinking, as he turned to stare at the top of the hill and at the end of the driveway in fearful anticipation. The basset hounds that their parents raised began barking wildly, which turned to growls and then to whines. They were kept in a pen across from the driveway, and all of them seemed to panic at once, digging and gnawing at the fencing, desperate to escape. This happened in a matter of less than a minute, taking Rhonda and myself by complete and utter surprise. "It grabbed me! Look at my leg!" Joe screamed, making us jump with alarm at the sound of dread in his voice. His Levi's were scratched all the way through the flesh, leaving bloody marks on his skin. The claw marks were larger than what a grown man could have made. "It walked on 2 legs!" he yelled, scaring us again, as he was trying to tell his story in between huge gulps of air. "It was following me, through the woods, along the path, from the old sawmill. Hairy. It was so hairy. And it had a snout. And it walked on 2 legs. It ran on 2 legs." His voice was sputtering, and I could see his pulse throbbing under the skin of his temples. In that moment, the howling began. It came from the woods at the top of the driveway. We all stood deathly still. Even the hounds had suddenly grown silent and still. It sounded at first like a mournful wolf's howl, but more profoundly chilling and, as it came closer, more threatening. Joe began pushing us toward the front door, demanding us to go inside when it came out of the woods above. With the sun just going down, it turned the creature into a silhouette of hairy blackness. It stood maybe a foot taller than a good-sized man and was twice the breadth in the shoulders and chest, which was heaving quickly, like someone who had just finished a long-distance race. When it raised its head, as well as its arms, up into the air to continue its guttural vocalizations, I could make out the shape of a snout. Not as long as a canine, but not a nose either. The security light overhead popped on and suddenly illuminated the creature, making it raise one of its arms to shade its eyes, which appeared a bit oversized for its face and solid black in color from the glare. We tore the screen door, trying to get into the house all at once, and started barricading the main entrance. Then we heard another howl just outside, coming closer, and we all retreated into a back bedroom and barricaded that door as well. The basset hound they had inside as a pet had smelled around the front door, then tucked its tail and ran along with us. The other dogs outside were going crazy again, as we also heard items being thrown around on the porch, continuing all around the side of the home as well. There was also the unmistakable sound of a window being shattered, just before we heard my aunt's horn blare from her car as she drove down the road. We didn't budge to help with the groceries. Later that evening, my aunt relayed our frenzied tale to my uncle. He was skeptical, but when he went out and witnessed the broken window and the huge mess outside the house, he decided to go out the next morning into the woods with a rifle on his shoulder. He returned a few hours later with such a look on his face that left no doubt he was now a believer. He warned us all very sternly to stay out of the woods. He had found several large pits that had been dug and filled with animal bones and parts of rotting carcasses along the path that led to the old sawmill. He also saw where something had dug holes which looked like deep caves, big enough for a man to hide in the sides of the bluff along the hills that overlooked the mill. There was a rank smell in the area, which was unlike the stench of rotting animals. It literally turned his stomach, but he could not identify it. He related further that, years before, when the old boy scout camp used to be on the other side of Grand Rivers, that an unexplained two-legged creature with wolf-like features was seen along the water's edge, close to the campsites, and that he and his son had witnessed it themselves one evening on the Kentucky lakeside. Summer was over and school resumed. Joe would venture gradually back into those same woods on his dirt bike, with a pistol on his belt for protection. There were many times he felt it watching him and would actually turn and see it again, heavily jogging toward him with a warning howl. For safety's sake, Joe decided to make some new trails on the other side of the woods. At night, though, after all was quiet and asleep, sometimes the dogs outside would start acting erratic, trying to get out of their pen again. And more than a few times, when Joe had fallen asleep in the living room floor watching TV, that familiar feeling of something intently watching him would cause him to awaken. He would look over at the patio doors that were open to let the cool air in and see the creature leaning down and staring at him through the screen door. In the early 90s, Joe and my dad, who had come down to visit, would both travel on foot into those same woods and go all the way back to the old sawmill. They found old as well as freshly dug dirt pits with animal bones in them. The holes in the bluff were still there, and they both experienced the feeling of being watched and felt uneasiness that something just wasn't right. The area where the sawmill stood seemed to have no life stirring around it. No birds, no squirrels, crickets, bugs, etc. Even the small pond that lay separate from the lake shore stood still and lifeless. And all around it smelled like a combination of skunk and wet dog. When a large shadow moved from inside one of the holes in the bluff, the men retreated, walking backwards for a while before turning to make haste back home. Today, those trails have either grown over or they were bulldozed away at some places. Construction crews came in where the sawmill was and demolished acres of the land to make room for condominiums and new homes. My aunt's home still stands at the end of the road, but even further neighborhood advancements are taking place all around them. I'm sure the creature we saw all those years ago has left for more quiet surroundings and hunting grounds, but it must not have moved far, as there are still local sightings of it a few times a year." End quote. Miss Thompson also claims to have witnessed this creature, or others like it, on more than one occasion in the general area, and has extensive knowledge of local folklore and events concerning these wolf-like anomalies. One such event that she claims to be aware of personally is extremely disturbing and involves the gruesome killings of a vacationing family in the LB area back in the early 1980s. She says, quote, "I believe it was around the beginning of May," she told me, just before the tourist season would start on Memorial Day, when the following event occurred. I must make note here that this story was never published in the paper or on the news, nor did it have any media attention at all. All the witnesses to the facts were contacted shortly after the incident and strictly instructed not to repeat anything they saw, share any information, or disclose where the actual location was. A few particular individuals said in later interviews that some high-ranking government officials threatened to take away their jobs and pensions if they ever disclosed any aspect of this particular case. So, for nearly 2 decades, most of the people that were involved kept silent. 2 local police officers, I'll name them Adam and Bill to protect their identities, came in while I was on duty at the same service station. They usually came by during the night, got coffee and a snack, chatted a bit, and then left. But on this night, they had just come from a crime scene in LBL and had been there for over 8 hours. It was around 3 in the morning, and they both appeared particularly shaken, pale, and acting curiously bewildered. Adam sat on the curb next to some gas pumps, expelling his stomach contents, while his partner, Bill, came in to get coffee for himself and water for Adam. Being a slow night, I went outside with Bill to see if I could offer some assistance. 15 minutes of hushed silence passed, except for the occasional dry heaving sounds from Adam. They both appeared in a disoriented stupor, and it was Adam who spoke first. "I can't believe it. It's not possible. I just can't believe it." The conversation that followed was in broken sentences at first, but ever so slowly, fragmented descriptions of their recent ordeal were revealed. Finally, it was Bill himself who divulged the whole frightening account. They'd gotten a call to help with an investigation at one of the many rural campgrounds down in LBL. Several types of law enforcement were already there, state troopers, sheriffs, deputies, etc., when they arrived around sundown. Also present were several coroners, each from different counties. A young married couple that was camping in the area had discovered the scene and reported it to the authorities from a payphone in Grand Rivers. They had only given directions to the crime scene and their names, the officer said. They had flat out refused to return to the LBL area. The motorhome was discovered with one of its doors hanging by one hinge, along with bloody handprints along the metal outside walls. Ripped and bloody clothing and the remains of 3 bodies were also found on the property. The gouging wounds found in what remained of the bodies were made by thick, long claws, and the deep teeth and bite marks were made from some long incisors along with a large snout, according to one of the first examining coroners. The rake marks in the flesh were made up of 4 distinctive long strokes with an additional smaller digit stroke, like that from a thumb, and its span was much wider than that of a man's handprint. The theories that a bear, wolf, mountain lion, or coyote could have done the damage were dismissed, as the injuries were clearly made by a much larger animal. Bears are not native to the area. Along with all the evidence collected, there was also found a clump of long gray and brown hairs in the hand of one of the victims. From the clothing that was examined inside the camper, the authorities presumed that the victims had been a family, consisting of a father, mother, a young boy, and a small girl. Yet there was only one body missing, that of the little girl. It was Adam that inadvertently discovered her up high, dangling from a tree, positioned on a limb. Parts of her body had been leisurely eaten. Some of the same long gray and brown hair was found sticking in the bark of the tree near her body. About a month after this incident, Adam and Bill stopped by during one of my midnight shifts. They seemed to have aged quite a bit, with streaks of gray in their hair and beards which had not been there before. Their faces showed signs of stress. They told me in confidence that they got word that the test results from the hair samples and saliva taken from the bite marks came back with an unknown origin of species, and that the closest animal that they could compare them to was that of a Canis lupus, a wolf. Well, folks, there you have it. What do you think this strange creature is in the land between the lakes? I look forward to your comments. Thanks again for listening to Among the Missing on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll see you a little further on down the trail.
Thank you, Steve, for another great report there, Land Between the Lakes. That is one freaky area. Still don't know if the dogman is hunting people there or not. That's what we tend to believe, as we encourage all of you to head on over to Among the Missing on YouTube and go hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, because Steve puts up new stories every day or two. From Among the Missing to Among the Stars, it's time for the UFO report. Let's bring in our resident Timbit in the UFO report.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
Little Timmy Senor, how you doing tonight, my man? It's good to have you back with us tonight. How you been?
Been good. Thanks for asking. Just enjoying some absolutely beautiful Oregon weather today. Got to stretch my legs, enjoy some beautiful outdoors on a fantastic Memorial Day. And I wouldn't, I absolutely have to mention a big shout out to all of our veterans and active duty members. We want to thank you on this day. We're remembering you. We're thinking of you. We're high-fiving you. Much love to all of
Amen.
our service
Gotta
people.
love our soldiers. Gotta love the soldiers.
Yeah.
Gotta love them. Absolutely.
Nice.
Well, I appreciate that UFO on it. I mean, you're rocking an Area 51 extraterrestrial highway hat that I picked out for you.
Yes, you did.
I was gonna buy it for myself.
Oh,
I was.
didn't fit, did it? Though
It did not fit because my mullet is huge. That's the truth of it
I got
all.
a tiny little head. Everything fits me.
You do. You
Men
do.
small.
I wish. I wish. I really, really wish. But nonetheless, there's a lot going on in the UFO world right now, and many of our colleagues are talking about what is coming down on Wednesday with the NASA report. Now, how did you manage to get a press pass for this?
I just applied, and when they asked for credentials, I just mentioned I was a documentary filmmaker, and then I'm supposed to just wait for a link. And so that's what I'm doing. It's pretty simple. I don't think it's really hard to get in there if you're going to be reporting on it. So yeah, you just apply. Email, in fact.
Email.
Yep. And so it'll be early in the morning for us here on the West Coast, about 7:30 in the morning, but 10:30 on the East Coast to start. And so we're going to be hearing from quite a lot of interesting speakers, including Dr. Kirkpatrick will be presenting for 30 minutes. So looking forward to that presentation at the upcoming NASA Q&A with their research group that is looking into UAP.
What do you think is going to come out of that?
Well, I don't have high expectations, but I would love to consider this scraping away at the surface of disclosure. Perhaps at least in this round of questions and answers, we can discover what their plan is, what their method is, and perhaps have some input on what they're going to be doing. So we really don't know exactly what this is going to be. A lot of the people in the know are saying that we shouldn't have high expectations, but we've never seen anything like this before. So I am absolutely reserving any expectations at all. I'm just going in with excitement, to be completely honest. Just that opportunity, for me personally, is outstanding, and this topic is groundbreaking. So it's now or never. If you've got a question, get it in there now.
Well, the questions that I have seen laid out so far are pretty basic.
Yeah.
Like, they are not about causing any sort of questioning of NASA's narrative, not questioning the authority or why they got into the UFO subject. I mean, it's basically the type of questions for our audience at home listening. Almost like, what's your favorite color of crayon, or what's your favorite flavor of Kool-Aid? And these are the questions. So what NASA did, you could go on their website and you could post questions from the public. And out of these questions, they chose what they said were the top 8. My questions, which were, when are you going to open up your closet? When are you going to talk about your astronauts who have had encounters with anomalous phenomena since going back to Gemini? None of those questions were answered. It was the same BS about propulsion, about the craft. What do they do? Are they going to be improving their tracking ranges on UFOs? It was all just simple questions that they could just eke out a half paragraph sentence on each and get the hell out. NASA literally should be embarrassed by that, Tim.
Dave spiking the ball, folks. That's considered the spike right there. No, I understand. You're not alone feeling that those are softball questions, and you're absolutely right. However, you have to know that they're being eased into this topic as well. A lot of the people are specialists. They're not necessarily focused on UAP as their full-time job, let's say. So a lot of them are new to the topic, but being brought in. So we are going to see some people with some blank looks on their faces. Absolutely. But at the same rate, I think this is a conversation we have to have.
Well, you know what? You are much more politically correct than I am when it comes to NASA, my friend. When we return, we are going to get into mysterious objects, Galileo Project, and another press event in Washington, D.C. Bring it on with the UFO report next. I'm going to buy you a giant pair of lips.
What? You need to follow up with that, buddy. That's
just a
why?
giant. I'm gonna make a T-shirt for our store with a giant pair of lips. So every time NASA comes on, we can Bill Nelson's ass for you.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Make them shiny.
Oh man.
I want another shirt that says things are getting weird around here. Because things are definitely getting weird. Yeah. No, I think it's fun. I put one of the questions very similarly to yours towards NASA, and it didn't get voted up the list enough, but it was along the same lines as yours. Are we going to hear anything from our astronauts, and are they going to make it public? So we'll see what happens. And if I get on the floor at any point, I'll definitely be asking that, and amongst a few others that have risen up my list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should let our audience know that Marquise will be covering a live feed of the NASA press conference on Wednesday morning right here on our YouTube channel. And he will be taking audience questions. Obviously, he won't be able to ask them to NASA, but we are going to run the feed, and we are going to he is going to take questions afterwards about what you think. So that way we'll be able to get in there and talk about it. By the way, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Look, I already know I'm going to be pissed off. Okay. But you know what? There has the potential to be a how can we put it? Maybe there will be a little rainbow over the clouds. I don't know. You never know. I do like this stuff though. I believe, what time does it start? 7 our time Pacific?
7:30, yeah.
So 10:30 Eastern.
Yeah. So no, right? You're like, I'm still sleeping. It's Wednesday though. No, you're absolutely right. And if they're able to at least answer one hard question, or maybe produce one honest answer on if at least they're gonna get information that's uncensored, because we'd love to see the uncensored photos and all the undoctored video and all the stuff that we know exists. So those are some of the questions we really want to get in there. But it's going to be fun. And see, there's a glimmer of hope in you. And it's one of those train wrecks that you can't look away from.
No, it is a friggin' train wreck.
I'll be wearing my NASA shirt. I have a very tight-fitting NASA shirt that I wore as a kid. I'll be breaking that out that morning. So
it probably still fits too.
It does, but it's a little tighter, but I think it was like a medium, kids medium, so it kind of still fits. But it's seen better days. It's vintage. So it's cool.
I see what you're talking about.
Yep.
I see what you're talking about.
So, I'm curious if everyone in our chat wants to just put in there what they did today to celebrate Memorial Day through some love to some veterans or service members. I think it's awesome. It's not too late, hopefully, wherever you are, to send a shout out if you forgot. Some people get it confused with other celebrations. I don't know. What do you have up in Canada for your veterans? Do you have an army? You don't have an army, do you?
2-0 against you. 2-0. We're 10-0 overall.
Are you guys still riding horses to war, or I know your
2-0.
police do.
2-0.
You got
2-0.
Mounties that's like
2-0.
show up to robberies and stuff on horseback.
2-0.
I get it. 2-0. I
Yep.
think my jokes are landing better. That's just me.
Not really. Not really. All right. We have Remembrance Day in November, on
Cool.
November 11th. Yeah. And I think you down there, you call it Veterans Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Hold on, buddy. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway as we are looking into the UFO report with little Timmy Senor. 2-0, buddy. 2-0. Anyways, moving on, we want to say a big thank you to everyone tuning us in. And don't forget, our archives are all free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We're all over social media, including Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. Go do a little shopping for some swag there while you're there. Why don't you? My name is Dave Scott. Let's get this next half hour rolling on in, Tim, because apparently Washington, D.C. is about to get another UFO hearing again. What are you hearing, buddy?
That's right. And this time it's Dr. Stephen Greer, the founder of Disclosure Project and one of the world's leading authorities of UAP disclosure. He will be presenting a definitive evidence of illegal, unacknowledged black budget projects related to UFO and UAP operations in Washington, D.C. around 2 p.m. on June 12th, 2023 at the National Press Club. And so he will be joined by several top secret government whistleblowers who will be presenting compelling testimony. These whistleblowers include a U.S. Marine who witnessed a man-made UAP offloading illegal weapons and drugs in Indonesia in 2009. The Disclosure Intelligence UFO Archive, consisting of over 5 terabytes of U.S. government documents, whistleblower testimony, and specific locations of illegally operated UFO projects and corporations, will also be unveiled. Over 700 military, intelligence, and corporate whistleblowers are included in this vast archive. So plans for a civilian-initiated racketeering-influenced corrupt organization lawsuit against illegal military and corporate projects will be announced and outlined. Additionally, and this is highlighted here, some of the 119 crash and retrieval events of extraterrestrial vehicles will also be summarized and presented. So the Disclosure Archive contains intelligence on all these cases. So Dave, this is another huge push we're seeing from Dr. Stephen Greer. This is probably, I'm imagining, the third big push that he's made. I think it's groundbreaking and kind of timed well, knowing that disclosure seems so imminent if you are following with some other news. Do you think that this is going to help push the subject forward, and maybe people like Dr. Fitzpatrick is going to be listening in? Maybe he's reading in some people that need to know some of this. What are your thoughts?
Well, my first thoughts is, anybody from the public, is he charging pay-per-view for this? Because he usually only does things that are going to make him money when it comes to this subject. At no point do I feel that Dr. Stephen Greer has done anything to try and move the ball forward without lining his own pocket one way or another. I can only speak from personal experience, where when I put out an interview request for him, that he actually asked me how much would I be paying him for the interview, and if he did go through with the interview, would I be giving him preloaded questions that he could answer? As a journalist, I said, no, we're not giving you the questions. And I rescinded the offer, first time ever on this show, for Dr. Stephen Greer. And I've never thought about bringing him back since, because to me, it isn't about the story, it's about the money. And look, I don't think for a second, while he's charging people $2,500 to $3,500 to attend one of his CE5 events, I don't think he chose Demi Lovato to pay. You know, somebody who's worth $50-60 million. But he wanted to be on the front page of her social media accounts because she has a combined, I believe, 110,000 or 110 million subscribers and followers on Twitter and Instagram. I don't think he's doing it for the up and up. I don't think he's doing it for the betterment of the American people or people worldwide. I think he's trying to learn what he can do to cash in on this. That's my opinion. Now he has done good work. I loved his documentary Unacknowledged. I did. I've loved a lot of his work regarding this. But if you want to contact extraterrestrials and you have the secret to do it, which is summoning, why are you charging some people's lifetimes of savings for that?
Interesting.
Shame on you for that.
Well, that's very interesting. Do you believe that this potentially is kind of a separate push that is almost unrelated to some of his convention events and things like that? This has kind of been something that he's been doing on the side almost for a long time, and maybe a real push for disclosure with real whistleblowers, sort of separate to his money-making endeavors in the UFO field. Are these two separate things we're seeing? Is this real attempt at disclosure potentially?
I don't know if it's a full attempt at disclosure or whether it's a way to re-push his narrative. Because for the longest time, Dr. Stephen Greer was the man when it came to disclosure. Okay, and that started back in the early 2000s. But since then, he has battled Luis Elizondo and the TTSA crowd on differing opinions. In fact, it was on this show a couple of years ago where Elizondo was asked a question by me regarding what he thought of Stephen Greer, and Elizondo, quote, end quote, said, "I don't deal with terrorists." Okay, there's no love lost between these two sides. The question is, who really has the sources that are telling the truth within the government? If you listen to Stephen Greer, his sources are the ones who are pushing for disclosure and not some false flag alien event that the U.S. government and many others in the government want to push. Whereas if you listen to Elizondo and you buy into what he's saying the exact same thing, but that Greer's false flag is completely false and he shouldn't be pushing a false narrative. All right. So who do you believe? A guy who's, working for the government while talking about disclosure and the betterment of the people, but he works for high-level agencies on this subject for the government? Or do you trust a guy who charges for everything hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to ordinary people who just want to know what the hell happened to them? Both say they have amazing sources. Both say they have internal military sources on where this is going. It's a coin flip on who you want to believe.
And it feels like the timing is just so perfect with the current push for disclosure. And we're even seeing Galileo in my next article here, if you're okay with me reading into it. It kind of links the timing for even Galileo Project releasing their publication of the UAP science papers recently that even was congratulated by SCU and support. The Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies came out with a congratulations response shortly after. in response to Galileo Project coming out with a series of, I believe, 8 scientific papers that have been peer reviewed. And at this point, it looks like they've been discussing in detail the 8 accepted papers in the press to be published soon, covering various aspects of the methodology and instrumentation developed for the project. They provide the most complete description yet of the project's scientific investigation. And in addition to an overview of the research program and objectives, these papers encompass the wide range of subject areas involved in the work, from new detection methodologies to novel instrumentation development targeting UAP to theoretical considerations concerning a mission to intercept interstellar object, or ISOs, of unknown origin. And so leading the charge in this pioneering effort, of course, is Dr. Avi Loeb. And it looks like a few other organizations have come together to put this together in help in submitting these papers. However, so far, we have yet to actually hear any results from any of the expeditions that have been put together by Galileo. But it does look like researchers are simultaneously preparing for an upcoming expedition to collect remnants of the first documented interstellar meteor and developing software then to analyze data both recorded by field instruments as well as by Earth observing satellites. So pretty big news coming out kind of at the same time. A big push for transparency, potentially whistleblowers, and then on the other side, a big push for science. So we're not sure where this is going, but do you have a gut feeling on something coming up over the horizon, Dave?
Well, I mean, I find it funny that you say a great push for transparency, but we don't know what the peer review said. Where's the transparency?
Well, they did release, so you can read all of these papers right at the website that is provided. Okay. And so they've given a full description of what they plan to do in their project. They've given absolute details and actually some schematics of some of the actual instruments that they're going to be using. So that's fairly transparent in my opinion. Now, what I'm looking forward to are some results, because my understanding is that they've been looking for almost a year. And I would love to see some results. That's really what I'm hoping for. Even if it's mundane, let's at least know that they're working on it.
Is mundane what we need, though, Tim? Is it seriously what we need anymore?
Well, that's a good question. I actually came up on that same question in my own research. Should I publish my mundane results? So for me, I'm not public, so no, there's no need. I probably won't publish until I have something interesting. But for a company that's out there publicly asking for money and perhaps, asking for time and educating children, and universities on the topic, perhaps they should be transparent with some of those results, even if they are mundane. I feel that we should be getting play-by-plays in something like this. Let's hear a little bit more.
Well, let's get to our next story, because I think Galileo is not going to give the public really what they need. It's all about Avi Loeb trying to get and secure his Nobel Prize that he would like. I'm not saying they're going to do bad work, but that's one of those I'll believe it when I see it type of things.
Let's skip to 5.
All right, what do you got for us?
So, coming from the debrief is a great story. Details on a mysterious object that followed China's space plane has been revealed in a recent space threat assessment. And so the details involving a mysterious object that was released during a test flight of an experimental Chinese space plane that landed this month were among several potential threats from space addressed in a recent report issued by a Washington-based think tank. So the assessment produced by the Center for Strategic and International Studies Aerospace Security Project was examined, and the varieties of weapons most likely to pose a threat from orbit, as well as the national nations capable of deploying them. And so what we found in this detail was that there were a few things that posed a risk potentially, and a portion of the report also focused on the recent launches of a pair of space planes by China, one orbital, and the other suborbital, and from its Joaquin Satellite Launch Center. And so, a few details have surfaced about this vehicle, and the report states that although it's known that its first space flight was launched in September of 2020 by a Long March 2F and thereafter remained a low Earth orbit for close to 48 hours, during that time, it was observed to release a secondary object. And so the mystery object circled in red in a photograph, potentially, if you have that available from the debrief, appears some distance behind China's space plane, circled in blue. And it's during its operations in orbit that this was photographed by a satellite. And so while little else is known about this mysterious object that was trailing behind the space plane, it was determined to be capable of broadcasting transmissions, according to the ASP report. The second test flight occurred in August 4th of 2022, remaining in low Earth orbit for close to 2 months before raising its orbit in October to shortly before the spacecraft also released another object. So we're not sure if these are objects being released or if they're potentially tracking and following. It's still considered an unknown. And so even the Chinese are reporting that this is potentially a UAP and not part of the release program. Dave, we're getting reports from all over the world and now satellite photos of things tracking space flights. What's your gut instinct on
we
this?
would have this from NASA if they would allow us to see it. I think it's great that China put it out. I think it's going to make NASA look like fools. And you know what? I believe this one. I don't believe a lot of the stuff that comes out of China. Okay? But I do believe that China looks for ways to make the United States look bad. And what better way in the UFO story than to have their space program say, look what's following our satellites? Because we know that when the feed picks up something anomalous on the ISS, it just seems to all of a sudden have some technical difficulties and we lose it. Or we don't talk about our astronauts who have seen things in the sky. We don't talk about our test pilots who have encountered objects in the sky, or our spy plane pilots of the SR-71 or the second part of the U-2 or whatever else is flying out there. Okay? We know things are being tracked. We know things are happening in space. And I think this is a perfect time for China to play April Fools with the United States government and with NASA in particular, especially coming out with NASA and their no UFO press conference that they are going to have on Wednesday. Don't think timing doesn't have anything to do with this, Tim.
You don't. Well, I personally do. I feel like this is all kind of timed at the same time we're getting all of this information.
You know my sarcasm there, brother.
Was that? Oh, that was sarcasm. Okay.
Yes. No offense.
No, hey, I didn't pick up on it this time. Sorry, buddy.
That's okay. I still love you. I still love you.
Do we have time for a quick one? I have two.
We got
you
2
choose
minutes.
from.
You can read a quick one. We got 2 minutes.
Well, I brought this one in because it hits home. This is similar to something that my wife saw in Antioch, California, believe it or not. A big, bright UFO hovering over houses before dripping molten lava. A Welsh UFO enthusiast, Helena Worth, told a remarkable sighting and says that in her many years of avid skywashing, she's never seen anything like it. And in this description, Helena told the Cambrian News about a bizarre sighting that she made early morning of 2019. She saw a bright light in the sky around a 3/4 of a mile away from her, she guessed. And she thought at first it must be a house fire. And as she began to move, as she was looking, the light began to move. It was circular, like a sphere, and it was hovering until it started to move west very slowly, but in a straight line trajectory. And as she watched it, it appeared that it was dripping molten lava, almost dripping and getting smaller each time it would drip. And so the object was moving quite slowly. She estimated at about 30 miles per hour. And as it was moving east, it was just dripping like molten lava. And so just before it went out of sight, the craft turned a bright red color and disappeared behind the trees. And Dave, my wife saw the same exact description in 2015 over busy Antioch, California. This may be a type of UFO.
I think it is. And it excites me.
Yeah.
See, this is what I love about this field, dude, is your wife saw one in Antioch, California. Now we have this report somewhere else. Okay. How are they the same in two different areas?
That's why I brought it. I thought it was, yeah. Coincidence?
Coincidence, maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if Random Gee was here, he'd be telling us that, you know, oh, it's ours. It's ours. Because he's in denial of his own aliens.
That's right. That's right. But he's been busy donating superhero blood tonight, which I'm pretty sure is what, RG positive blood type.
RG positive, yes.
He's RG positive.
Yeah. He has his own blood type, people. RG positive.
This is what we're thinking. He's the man of mystery. Well, thanks a lot, Dave. It's been a fun night. Are you letting me go early tonight, or?
Well, I might, but we should just mention Greg here. Apparently, we work for liars.
Oh,
yeah. Apparently, we work. Tim. Who do you work for? You work for Spaced Out Radio. I work for
me. Yeah. No, I'm here. I'm a volunteer.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate the love. Oh, sometimes you got to just put a smile on your face. Thank you, Tim. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Now, Greg, don't you go anywhere. Don't you go anywhere. You don't get to call old Davey a liar and say I'm bought without arguing your cause here, my man. No. By the way, at this time, we'd like to welcome in all agents and agencies from around the United States Pentagon and areas all around and say hello to all of you. We welcome you. Give us a call sometime. That way, you already have the number. You don't need to have me give it to you. You already got it. And remember, apparently, some of us can be bought. Who knew? Who knew? Thanks for tuning in, though. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Hey, Chairman Meow, how you doing? Let's see here. What are we doing here? We got to download the show. Yes. Watch what documentary? What documentary do you want me to watch? There's only about 10,000 of them out there. Which documentary shall I watch? Do 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 do. Watch Level with Me. I'll write it down. Where can I find it? Are you a UAPist? Oh, hell no, Nicole. Hell no, you know. No. Tim loves his UAP, and every now and again we got to bring him out of that UAP stinkhole. But with NASA coming up, he's UAP'd right up right now. He's injected new UAP blood into him. He hasn't got that RG positive that we need. Greg, is that on YouTube? Is it on Netflix or Hulu or where is it? On YouTube? Okay. I will check it out. Doug Shelby is here with a great comment. The Doug Shelby with, oh my God, that is UA pathetic. Love it. Love it. That's strong there, Doug Shelby. The Doug Shelby coming in large and in charge right there. Samantha Hazelwood Gray, you better be prepared because the Doug Shelby is ready to rock and roll. Hold on, let me do this here. 0529 Lon Strickler. Monsters in our eyes. The Blue River, Lon Strickler. Monsters in our eyes. Greg, because I work 2 full-time jobs, I'm a father, and I work 16 to 17 hours a day, which leaves me about 6.5 hours for sleep and about an hour and a half each night to actually spend time with my family. That's why. You avoid a lot of channels yet? I don't watch other channels. No, I don't have time. And being on terrestrial radio, that's more the focus of telling the stories of that people have. That's always been kind of the real focus of it all. And I think we got a pretty good reputation out there. Oh, Bassett and I are buddies. I'm going to take it easy on him tomorrow night because he's living the dream right now. He is totally living the dream. Can't shit on old Stevie too much. What am I doing here? Let's move this one over here. That's got to be Dropbox. Right. All right. Mm-hmm. Do. Hi there, Noble Patrick. How you doing? You no, okay. So let's get into this, Greg, because you just said something that I push alien lies. Number one, we don't push any lies on this show, so we're going to eliminate that account. Yes, there are extraterrestrials. How do I know? Because I've been face to face with them personally. Do I have evidence? No, nothing outside of a story. Just like 99.9% of other people there that have had the experience. But yes, I do know what I saw. And with my journalistic integrity that I have, I tell the truth to my audience because I went to school to do that, and I upheld the oath of doing that. So that is, we don't use the word lies around here because it is a very subjective term, because you may not believe it, but it doesn't mean that a person is lying. Lying usually leads to opinion, and that's where we go with that. So, no, Deb, just let him go. Don't time him out. Don't time him out. We're having a conversation. Bring him back in, Deb. Bring him back in, please. I cannot untime him, Deb. It doesn't allow me to. I can put him in a timeout, and then how do I remove the timeout? It's not allowing me. Yeah, I didn't want him timed out. See, I love people like this because they think that you I know he's in a timeout. I just can't get him out. I'm trying, but for some reason it's not allowing me. I know, but if I'm debating, Deb, if I'm debating with the guy on the air, I don't expect him to be timed out, hun. I understand why you did it, and I'm okay with that. But if I'm talking to the guy on the air, I'll deal with him. That's right, Nicole. Only extra temptation Ireland bar hopping terrestrials. That's right. I'll wait till he comes back. Yeah. So, anyways, what I was saying is, see, this is what exactly what's going to happen when Greg comes back, and I'm gonna call it before he returns. He's gonna come out with the you don't have any proof that they do exist, and I'll say yes, I do, and then he'll say, well, show me it, and I'll say, well, what is proof? And then that's where the debate gets into uh, that all the skeptics or people who go around calling people liars can't ever answer what is proof. So we'll wait for that to happen. I've got some editing to do anyways. We can wait for another 4 millions. No, bro did not get banned for saying there is no aliens. He got banned because he called me a liar. That's why he got banned. Hey, Ross Dog, what do you think of my hat, buddy? What do you think of my hat? You like that? Is that nice for you? I'm supporting the cause here, Ross Dog. Supporting the cause. Gregory 777. I got to put up Ross's random guy there. You're lucky you're not feeling good, random guy, because I'd suplex you right now. I'd totally suplex you. He wasn't banned anyways. He was timed out, which is a timeout I didn't agree with, but it happened. He's coming back. Hey, Steam Train Mark, thanks for letting me know I'm alive later on today. Appreciate that. Always good to know you're living in the future. Mm-hmm. Copy. I better do that. Just in case. So I know I'm going to be pissed off if I don't. No, different Greg. Different Greg. Not Gregory 777. The other Greg dude. There he is. CIA man in the dock tells alien invasion fake. Oh, yeah. That's a Greer thing. That's a Stephen Greer thing, bud. I'll look into it. I got it written down, Greg. You got me kind of curious on that. Are you a flat earther, Greg? Be honest. Are you a flat earther? Is that why you don't believe aliens are here? Do you got the flat earth bug? Only thing above us is water. Oh, where are we going with this one? Actually, I had a flat earth guy from England on. He kind of spoiled me on the topic, and I don't really want to interview anybody else because he really actually did make me think. He really, ouch, it really did make me think. I'd bring him on again. Not some of the whack jobs that are out there, but I would totally bring him on again. I have 167 in. What does that mean, Greg? Has anyone seen an angel? Only their eyes, Andrew. Only the eyes. Well, that's all right, man. All right, so we got that done. No, we haven't done in a while. Let's see what's happening in Africa. Because I know 100% fact that random guy really, really loves knowing what's happening in Namibia. We have a jackal right now in there. See if we can find more answers or animals here. Hold on, where are you? All right, that's the Kalahari Desert. What do we got there? Oh, we got springboks. No, they suck. Old Donio usually has some good stuff. Wow, it's barren. It's absolutely barren. Oh, they drank all the water, I think. African Tau. Oh, we got the crazy wildebeest starting to walk around. Hold on. Let's go to Tembe. Oh, we got one elephant. There's some sort of shit all over the water now. Like flowering going on. What's happening at Medwiki? Oh, yeah, there's the wildebeest. All right, let's quickly check out. I don't want to pronounce this one. Nothing going on there. No animals even in the distance. Check out Rosie's Pan. Got nothing. What's the Djuma one? Oh, stop. Oh, we got nothing there. Bastards. Thought we might get a crocodile or something. The water's still quite high over there. Another Namibia watering hole. What do we got here? Nothing. Are these damn animals thirsty? Give us our viewing pleasure. See what this one's about. Gotta wait for the commercial to end. Okay, here's something cool for you. I think you'll like this. Share screen. Penguins. Penguins. You weren't expecting penguins. Ah, me too, Dan Hill. How you doing, buddy? There's penguins, people. Doesn't get any better than penguins. I'll be right back. Penguins. I like penguins. And let's send this show away. Let's go with this. Send this one away. Chucky. Len. Send. Channel. What do you say there, Mr. Rob G? Do they use lube, the penguins? You were probed by ETs from the outer lands or under the sea? Well, I never said I was probed. That's getting a little personal. I mean, you'd have to pay me a lot of money to find out if I was probed. What the hell is that? What the hell is that that just crawled in there? Like a marmot or something? Oh, there's another one on the rocks. Look at them. What are those cute little things? Are those marmots? No, not all of them say that happens. Are you new to this subject, Greg? Okay, that would be why. No, the majority don't get the old anal probing, and if they do say they're getting the anal probing, they're probably looking for attention. Majority do not get the anal probing. Random guy, on the other hand, he probably got the anal probing. Oh my God. Hey Travis, how you doing, buddy? Skip to my Lou. Maggie, thank you for the super chat. Love you, dear, in Australia. Thank you, dear. Daniel, how you doing? We believe someone brought a dog with a pig after what I saw in 2019 at night. That would be scary. That would be scary. Close that out. And that's done. That one's done. Start this one up. Send that one to Old Bernal, Utah. There you go, Charlie. Coming your way. Send this one to Bellingham. Right there. Boom. Maggie. 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 I like penguins. All right, enough of the penguins. Close that window out. Speed up this downloading process. Where am I here? To Mothman, how's the goatee doing, buddy? Badass goatee. Good night, Blue Cruise. We're losing people quickly. The whole bedtime thing is starting to catch up. In fact, I'm going to turn this light off here. Yeah, that one done. Where are we here? Oh, we're moving right along. Who's on tomorrow night? Stephen Bassett. Disclosure talk tomorrow night. That'd be fun. All right. We are done. Thank you tonight to Deb times 1, Louis times 2, Derek times 1, Typical 1, Catherine, Izzy, and Maggie for the amazing super chats. Much love, everybody. We'll see Stephen Bass tomorrow night. I'm going to say goodnight to you all. Much love. Take care. See you tomorrow.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.